Well, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that in the olden days, basically like 2 decades ago when I graduated high school, all of our things were pretty much, they weren't digital. They were all, analog. There's papers and things like that. And most of the work that students are doing, not most of it, but a lot of the work that students are doing now is digital. And the problem with that is if it's being sent in over here or sent in here, it's not coming home anymore. So if they're not archiving that on their own and the teachers aren't doing anything with it, all that work is really lost. And not only is it lost in the now, it's lost on the ability to go back and look at it years from now or to learn from it. And I don't know how else to fix that other than being able to digitize and, either on the cloud or something like that, or a portfolio software to be able to have access to it. When I started meeting with mentorship class, then typically I go in, so my role here at the high school is an educational technologist, which at a high school means that you're not only delivering professional development to teachers, but also to students. And that's essentially what I do. Typically I'm called in and said, they're working on resumes, they're working on portfolios, and give them some best practices to a portfolio or a resume, and then give them some tools. And that's essentially what I did. So the first year it was very bare bones. This is why kids need a resume and why you need to have things online. And a few kids gravitated to Bulb and used it, and now they're using it all the time. When we saw the ease of it and the visual layout of it, it makes things look slick very easily without having to do a whole lot of work. It makes you look like you know what you're doing. And so then it just kind of became a thing where all of the students then had to organize their portfolio that way. And it's just been a really cool experience to kind of see. And even over the semesters of seeing how they're able to go back and look at those things, and they're able to, make changes and also look at other students' portfolios, which I think is, a tremendous benefit to having them online and as easily navigatable as they are.
It fits in so many ways. I mean, it was an absolutely perfect fit. So when I took over this program, they were using binders to compile all of their work from the semester. So one of the big lessons we do is a resume. And I felt like at the end of the semester, I ended up with all of these binders that students didn't come back to get. And I had an office not only full of binders that are great examples, but the students then don't have them. And I had heard about this, website, Bulb app, that students could use, and it was explained to me, and I used an individual here as a reference, Lisa Johnson, and said, this is kind of what I'm looking for, and of course she gave me Bulb app, and we kind of went from there. I started playing with it, and the next thing I knew, I thought, well, this would fit really well with our course and the final product, which is this expansive portfolio of all of their work, their notes from the semester, their time at their placements. I implemented it first in the fall, last fall, so a year ago. And it started pretty basic, and I wasn't really sure how I wanted to use it. And since then, so a full year, it's grown quite a bit. Students really ran with it this semester, especially this past semester, when they fully understood, how it worked, and kind of what they were expected to do. I think, the website itself is so user-friendly. It was really just figuring out how I wanted to incorporate it in the course. And I'm really not super tech savvy. It took me some time to kind of sit down and play with it, but it was so easy to use. And I was able to just jot down some quick instructions for students. I didn't pull them in a class and sit down and say, okay, step 1, let's go in and log in. They created their account, they went in, and it was all on them to do it. And they did it beautifully. And the one thing I heard from them over and over and over again is that as far as time was concerned, it took little to no time to create. I have a great example here that I talk with students about. I keep in my office my binder portfolio from when I was doing student teaching in college. And it's one of those giant portfolios. And I felt like, someday this is going to help me get a job. And it did. I got my first job at Westlake High School with that portfolio. I flew down from the Northwest where I was from. And they were so blown away by this portfolio. And I take it and I showed students. And I said, this is what got me my first job. And so I thought, oh my gosh, students are going to be able to take their Bulb app, their site that they've built, their portfolio with them. So we had a student named Yasmin who used Bulb before it was required, and she went on to Texas Tech and actually continued using that portfolio, uploaded all of her architecture work, and then did an internship at UT, uploaded all of her work from there. And I think it's a perfect place for her to showcase not only what she does, but where she's hoping to go in the future.
Well, I think the current reality first, let's start there, and I'll say that most digital portfolio companies, when it comes to K-12, they're very restricted to just K-12. So if I'm a student who's graduating, that was great, I use that in school, I'm never going to use it again. I think the difference with Bulb is that you can extend it beyond that and actually use it for college and career. A lot of people use Google Drive or Google Docs. Back end, that's great, but what happens when they leave? And so for me, what gives it an edge is that kind of the ability to export it out and go to the next level with it. The dying trend of the monolithic LMS, which is where you pay a bundled price for a giant system that you maybe use 10% of, right? Rather than doing that, it's better to differentiate in a lot of ways and say, what do we need for our kids and what do we want to pay for actually that gives us the best bang for our buck? I like that a lot more, and that's kind of the model we've taken. So when it comes to any software choice, we're not looking at getting the all-in-one software. We're looking at doing the right things at the right times for the kids. Well, I will say in terms of Bulb particular, just in terms of responsiveness to whenever we've had design ideas, you guys have been very responsive. In fact, more than any company that I've ever dealt with in terms of like quick turnaround time on ideas. I mean, I'd say that puts you guys up top notch in terms of customer service, which we love. And it's just the ease of use and integration with our student devices. Man, it's doggone simple. I mean, so that's great. As a person in my role who spends a lot of time and headaches on onboarding software, I like that it's just click, Google, go, you're ready. That's made it so much easier for us. On the outside glance, you think digital portfolios, it's great to have this published piece of work that everyone can look at and receive. What I find valuable about it is the reflection on learning, and research is out there now that shows that when you actually reflect on your learning, you actually internalize it more. So providing a platform that can do both of those is ideal, and that's what Bulb offers us. It gives you an opportunity to publish your actual work and let people see that, but also take time to reflect on what you learned and then go back and kind of look at that again. It doesn't have to be published either, it can be private. And I feel like that's a powerful add to the learning experience.